Smile, Laura, the man whispered behind her. You don't want anyone to see the gun. The metallic click was soft, small enough to disappear beneath the lobby music, but to Laura Poole, it sounded like thunder. The Ocean Crest Hotel glowed under the late afternoon Miami sun, every chandelier casting diamonds across the marble floor. Guests laughed over cocktails. A string quartet floated through hidden speakers. The place radiated wealth, precision, and control, her control. Yet in that same perfection, she felt the press of cold steel against her spine. Welcome back. How are you all doing today? And tell me where you're watching from the comment section. Here is another story that will captivate you, but before we jump deep into it, support the channel, like, subscribe, and share. Thank you. Now, let us dive in. Evan Marrow walked beside her, hand buried in his tailored jacket, smile perfectly polite for the crowd. He had once been her most trusted CFO. Then came the missing funds, the offshore accounts, the arrest warrant she'd signed herself. He'd lost everything when she exposed him. Now he was here to collect what he thought he was owed, her silence, her company, maybe her life. They moved across the lobby like any executive pair leaving a meeting. No one looked twice. That was the beauty of luxury. Appearances never told the truth. Lara's pulse raced. She could shout. She could run. But panic was weakness, and weakness was something she'd spent her entire career erasing. So she did the only thing that made sense. She spoke with her hands. Tiny movements, almost invisible, a tremor to an outsider. But to someone fluent in the language of silence. Help me. Gun. Please. Across the lobby, Tom Walker froze mid-mop stroke. Earbuds dangled, unwired. He watched the billionaire's hands, the rhythm of her fingers, the sharpness of her breath. He knew exactly what she was saying. Years of raising a deaf son had trained him to see what others never noticed. Laura stepped into the elevator, smiling for the cameras. The doors closed. Tom stared at his reflection in the marble floor, at the man the world never saw. The mop trembled in his grip. He wasn't supposed to get involved. He was just a janitor. But the woman in that reflection was silently asking him to save her life. And deep down, he already knew he would. That morning, before the gun, before the marble floor turned into a mirror of fate, Tom Walker's world had been smaller, simpler. The day began in a one-bedroom apartment on the west side of Miami, where sunlight filtered through old blinds and the smell of burnt toast lingered like a stubborn memory. At the kitchen table sat Eli, 8 years old, small for his age, spooning cereal and humming softly to the rhythm of silence. Tom watched him with the kind of focus that came from fear, the fear of missing something important. A new sign, a new word, a new emotion flickering across his son's face. Every morning was a language lesson in patience. He signed slowly. Good morning, buddy. Eli grinned and signed back. You burned breakfast again. They laughed, silently, perfectly. It was the only sound Tom wanted to hear. A photo on the fridge caught his eye. His late wife, Mara, holding a baby wrapped in a beach towel. Taken before the accident, before the silence became permanent. She used to say Tom never noticed the little things. Now, noticing was his whole life. He kissed Eli's forehead, grabbed his janitor's badge, and left for Ocean Crest. By 8 a.m., he was part of the background, sweeping corners, wiping tables, invisible among millionaires in tailored suits. But that invisibility had its perks. He saw things others missed. The nervous tics, the fake smiles, the power plays beneath polite laughter. Years ago, that skill kept him alive working nightclub security. Now it kept him steady, anonymous. Tom believed some people were born to be unseen. He didn't resent it. He relied on it. But as he mopped the endless marble that afternoon, he didn't know his silence was about to matter more than it ever had. Most people walk past stories like Tom's every day. If this moment makes you pause, even for a second, remember, some lives are only visible when you choose to look closer. The elevator chimed. Laura Poole stepped inside, smiling through fear. And somewhere deep inside Tom's chest, the quiet world he'd built began to crack. The Ocean Crest lobby shimmered around her, gold accents, polished marble, a string quartet playing near the bar. Every detail was hers. her vision, her empire. And yet, Laura Poole could feel her own creation turning into a cage. "Keep smiling," Evan Merrill murmured beside her. His tone was soft, almost casual. The kind of voice he once used in board meetings before proposing mergers worth billions. But this time his right hand stayed tucked beneath his jacket, steady, deliberate. She didn't need to see the gun. She could feel it. They walked past the concierge, past the tourists posing for photos beneath the chandelier she'd imported from Milan. Every inch of this place whispered success, and every step she took was a lie. Evan leaned close enough for her to smell his cologne, the same one he used to wear when he was still her CFO before the scandal. She remembered the night she'd uncovered it. Forged invoices, shell accounts in the Caymans, her signature copied. She'd confronted him alone, thinking integrity would protect her. It hadn't. "I built this company with you," he'd hissed then, "and I'll make sure you regret tearing it away." Now, here he was, smiling like a partner again, except for the tremor under that smile. "Straight ahead," he said. Elevators waiting. Her pulse thudded, but her expression didn't waver. Cameras were everywhere. Guests were watching. She couldn't scream, couldn't run. The brand was built on composure, and composure was all she had left. Her mind scrambled for anything, any crack in his control. Then, like a spark in the dark, she remembered it. The deaf school visit months ago. The day she'd learned those simple signs for a photo op. "Thank you. Welcome. Beautiful." She meant it as a gesture of kindness. Now, it was the only language that could save her. The elevator doors slid open. Evan gestured with the barrel hidden under his coat. "Top floor," he said. Laura stepped in, pulse spiking, smile frozen. Her empire might have made her powerful, but at that moment, power meant nothing without a way to be heard. Tom Walker didn't move right away. Panic never helped anyone. He'd learned that the hard way. Instead, he pushed his mop forward, slow and steady, eyes fixed on the mirrored marble beneath him. In that reflection, he saw it again, Laura Poole's trembling hand, barely moving at her side. 3 quick gestures. "Help me. Gun. Please." He swallowed hard, pulse drumming in his throat. The world around him stayed perfectly ordinary. The hum of conversation, the clink of glass from the bar, the faint echo of a piano somewhere up the mezzanine. But under that calm, a billionaire was seconds from dying. Without breaking stride, Tom angled the mop bucket closer to her path. He bent down, lifted the yellow wet floor sign, and set it directly in their way. A small, harmless act, invisible to everyone except the man with a gun who suddenly had to slow down. "Sorry, folks," Tom muttered, pretending to polish the floor again. He caught a glimpse of the man's reflection. Sharp suit, forced smile, the outline of a weapon pressed beneath his jacket. Lara's fingers twitched once more. Elevator. Top floor. Got it. Tom's movement stayed quiet, deliberate. When they passed, he turned his mop upright, parked the bucket, and slipped into the maintenance closet just beyond the column. The door clicked shut, sealing him in a narrow, fluorescent-lit space that smelled faintly of bleach and dust. He picked up the old internal phone. One few employees even knew still worked, and dialed a 3-digit extension burned into his memory. "Renee Garcia," came the voice on the other end. "Head of security." "Renee, it's Tom. CEO. Our man." Silent alarm only. A brief pause. "Stay on the line. We're eyes on the cameras. Buy us time." Tom exhaled, every nerve on edge. He thought of Eli, his son, probably tracing letters in his workbook right now, waiting for Dad to pick him up after school. If Tom made one wrong move, someone's father wouldn't be coming home tonight. He gripped the receiver tighter. Failure wasn't an option. Tom moved like a ghost through the staff corridors, fast, focused, and unseen. The echo of his boots merged with the hum of the hotel's machinery. His earpiece crackled. "Renee here," the security chief said, voice low but sharp. "Police are en route. No sirens. We keep it contained." "Copy," Tom whispered. He pushed his cleaning cart into position, blocking a side door that led to the garage. One exit sealed. He moved to the next hallway, swiping his access card, pretending to refill sanitizer dispensers while his hand subtly flipped a nearby elevator switch to maintenance mode. The button light dimmed. Another trap closed quietly. Back in the main lobby, Evan's eyes darted across the room, scanning faces that suddenly looked too alert. His jaw tightened. "Why are the staff everywhere today?" he muttered. Lara forced a calm smile. "Quarterly inspection," she lied smoothly. "You know how I am about appearances." He smirked, half believing her. But his grip beneath the jacket didn't ease. "Renee," Tom murmured into the receiver, "he's getting nervous." "Stay clear of him," she ordered. "Let him think he's in control." Tom adjusted his route, keeping just out of sight lines, moving through narrow service halls few guests even knew existed. He glanced at one of the monitors showing live feeds from the lobby. Lara walking, head high, composure flawless. A billionaire pretending not to be terrified. He wished she knew she wasn't alone. For a second, the enormity of it all hit him. A janitor, armed with nothing but nerve and timing, standing between life and death in a place that didn't even notice him. And then the thought came, quiet, heavy. If courage ever feels too small to matter, remember this. Somewhere, someone like Tom is saving a life, and no one will ever know. Stories like his deserve to be remembered. He turned a corner and froze. The feed on his tablet flickered. Evan and Lara had vanished from the lobby camera. "Renee," he said, voice tightening. "I lost visual." Her reply came, almost a whisper. "It's happening, Tom." Service stairwell, east wing. Tom's pulse jumped. He dropped the mop handle and started running. The elevator doors slid open onto the 60th floor, and Lara Poole felt the weight of the city drop away beneath her. Biscayne Bay shimmered through the glass wall, endless, blue, and utterly indifferent. Evan Marrow pressed the gun harder into her back. "Inside," he ordered. The penthouse conference suite smelled faintly of salt air and polished mahogany. On the table sat a stack of documents, letterhead bearing her company's logo, neat pages marked with forged signatures. A pen gleamed beside them like a loaded weapon of its own. "Sign it," Evans said, "or this becomes a murder scene." Lara took her seat, every motion deliberate, every breath controlled. Her mind raced through possibilities, exits, angles. She needed to stall, to make him believe she was breaking. "Evan," she said softly, scanning the papers, "you know the board won't accept this. Even if you—" He cut her off with a sharp gesture. "The board will accept what I tell them. You taught me that." Outside the suite, Tom Walker crouched in a narrow service corridor, heart pounding. He followed the camera feeds here, taking the freight elevator to avoid being seen. Through the mirrored wall that separated the conference suite from the hallway, he could see just enough. Lara sitting at the table, Evan pacing like a wolf. Tom adjusted his earpiece. "Renee, I'm in position." "Copy," came her whisper. "Units are staged on both sides. We move when you do." Inside, Lara's eyes flicked toward the glass, toward him. Her hand dropped under the table. A single sign. "Close." Then another. "Ready." Tom swallowed hard. His pulse matched the hum of the air conditioner. Through the earpiece, Renee's voice came again, barely audible. "On your signal." Tom stared at the reflection, at the woman risking everything on a silent language only he could understand. He took one breath, then another, because the next move would decide everything. Tom didn't wait. He shoved the cleaning cart forward and slammed it into the wall. The metal crash exploded through the corridor like thunder. Inside the penthouse suite, Evan Marrow jerked around, hand flying to his gun. "What was that?" Lara didn't answer. She dropped to the floor just as the door burst open. Security stormed in, Renee in front, two officers behind her, weapons drawn. "Miami PD." "Drop it." But Evan didn't. He spun toward the noise, gun arm rising. For one suspended heartbeat, everything slowed. The shimmer of sunlight on the table, the flutter of a paper page, the breath Lara hadn't realized she was holding. Then the lights cut. Darkness swallowed the room. Shouts. Scuffling. A single gunshot cracked through the air, deafening, final. Tom pressed himself against the wall outside, chest heaving, eyes locked on the black glass. He couldn't see anything, only flickers of shadow and movement. Seconds stretched into hours. And then, silence. The lights blazed back on. Evan Marrow lay, face down on the floor, wrist cuffed, gun kicked several feet away. The stack of forged contracts lay scattered like confetti of a fallen empire. Renee's voice rang out over her shoulder. Suspects secured. No casualties. Laura Poole slowly pushed herself to her feet, hair disheveled, composure cracked but not broken. Her gaze swept across the chaos until it landed on the doorway, where Tom stood, mop handle clenched in his shaking hands. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the air system filled the space where words should have been. It was the first time she really saw him. Not the janitor, not the background figure, but the man who had heard her silent cry. By morning, the Ocean Crest was crawling with uniforms and cameras. Police cordoned off the 60th floor, reporters filled the lobby, and a wall of flashing lights turned Laura Poole's hotel into a headline. She stood behind the glass doors, answering questions with poise sharpened by years in the public eye. It was an internal matter, she said. Everything is under control. But behind her calm expression, her mind replayed the night. The reflection on the marble, the trembling hand, the man with the mop who noticed what no one else did. Hours later, the truth spread quietly through her company. One of her own board members had leaked security codes and schedules to Evan Marrow. The betrayal stung deeper than the gun ever had. By the next afternoon, the chaos had settled into silence. Laura sat alone in her office overlooking Biscayne Bay when she asked her assistant to send Tom Walker in. He arrived wearing the same uniform, cap in hand, eyes unsure. "You saved my life," she said softly, "and I didn't even know your name." Tom shifted, uncomfortable with the weight of her gratitude. "I just did what anyone should have done." "No," she said. "You did what no one else could." She slid an envelope across the desk, a new position, Director of Employee Wellness and Safety. A chance to reshape the company from the inside out. Then, another document, the Eli Walker Foundation. Funding for families raising deaf children. Scholarships. Equipment. Hope. Tom's throat tightened. "You don't have to do this." Laura smiled faintly. "You taught me what power really means." When Tom stepped out of her office, sunlight spilled across the marble floor. The same floor where it had all begun. His phone buzzed. A text from Eli's teacher lit the screen. He signed his first full sentence today. Tom stopped, smiling through the tears he didn't expect. Months later, the Ocean Crest lobby gleamed brighter than ever. A new plaque hung beside the grand staircase, its inscription simple but powerful. The silent alert system, conceived by Tom Walker. Guests paused to read it, unaware of the quiet man, standing a few feet away. Tom stood with Eli at his side, dressed in his small blue suit, grinning up at the crowd. Laura Poole stood beside them, elegant as ever, but her presence felt different now. Warmer, human. She stepped to the podium as cameras clicked. "When we built this hotel," she began, "we designed it to reflect light. But what I learned is that light doesn't just come from chandeliers or marble. It comes from people, often the ones we don't see." Her gaze met Tom's. "The people we don't see," she continued, "are often the ones who see everything." Applause rose and echoed across the lobby. Eli clapped too, laughing, his small hands a blur of movement. After the ceremony, Laura crouched to his level and signed carefully, "Your father is a hero." Eli's eyes lit up. He signed back, deliberate and proud. "I know." Tom swallowed hard, blinking fast. For once, he didn't feel invisible. The foundation they'd started together, the Eli Walker Foundation, had already helped dozens of families afford hearing devices, therapy, and education. It wasn't charity, it was connection. And maybe the world would be different if more of us chose to really see. The quiet workers, the single parents, the people holding everything together when no one's watching. If stories like this remind you to look closer, don't just scroll past. Stay. Sunlight spilled across the polished marble floor, reflecting them all equally. And over that reflection, Lara's voice echoed softly. "Power isn't control. It's connection. Fade out. Thank you for staying to the very end. Trust the story resonate with you. If it does, subscribe to get more of our video, like and share to make it go viral. Thank you."